functioning on social and cultural concepts like race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexual orientation, age, or disability. So these are actually social, like age, disability. Still, we know like it is like the physical disability, and age also we can see people are aging. That's, so aging is actually aging. We have a concept called ageism in developmental psychology. We use ageism. Ageism is a kind of a derogatory term that we use to denote elderly people. They are in the process of ageism. So it's a derogatory word basically. So something like that, because like they are aging, they are declining, their functions are declining. So it's a kind of a discriminatory prejudice-based word that is ageism. So something like that. So age, disability, religion, gender, identity, sexual orientation, ethnicity, nationality, whatever it is. So a particular negative attitude, and based on that negative attitude, we are having a particular kind of behavioral response, behavioral expression towards a particular group of people or an individual, based on their characteristics, such as race, ethnicity, whatever, all those social, cultural, political factors. So, so even though this prejudice and discriminations, we use it together, but these two things are two distinct concepts. Basically. Prejudice is something different, and discrimination is again something different. So we will look into that. What is that basic difference? Because the difference is very narrow, very thin difference they hold between these two concepts. So prejudice basically it's kind of a negative attitude, belief, or stereotypes towards a particular group which are not based on actual experience or evidence. You have to be very careful with this explanation. So prejudice is basically a negative attitudes, beliefs, or stereotypes towards a particular group which are not based on actual experience or evidence of that particular person who is creating that prejudice. Okay. For example, someone may hold prejudiced belief that certain ethnic or religious groups are lazy, dangerous, or untrustworthy, even though there is no evidence to support these beliefs. Basically, maybe one or two people like, encountered some bad experience in their life from a particular people from a particular group, ethnicity or religion or something. But that doesn't mean we can generalize the whole community with that particular behavior. So that is prejudice. So prejudice is basically a cognitive or emotional aspect. Basically, yes. If you look carefully, what is prejudice? There is attitude, belief, stereotype. These three things are basically a cognitive aspects or a cognitive and emotional aspects. A kind of psychological process which combine cognitive and emotional aspects. That is attitude, belief, and stereotypes. But when it comes to discrimination, discrimination is basically a kind of unfair treatment of behavior. It's an expressive behavior. So discrimination comes from the prejudiced thought or emotion, whatever. Okay. So discrimination is kind of an action. Okay, that action can be in any way. So discrimination refers to unfair treatment or behavior towards individuals or groups based on their membership in a particular group. Okay. So discrimination can be intentional or unintentional. That's the difference basically. Prejudice again, we have a chance to change it, but when prejudice is developed, it is too difficult to change that particular thing. But discrimination, we can stop those discrimination through policies or acts of like law and those kind of things that we have government and social system, judiciary and everything. So discriminations we can remove through, or at least to some extent we can stop through this kind of methods. But prejudice is purely based on that person's knowledge and experience or whatever it is. So discrimination is the behavioral part of the prejudice. So this is the basic difference between prejudice and discrimination. And now we have to look into the factors or the causes of prejudice and discrimination because discrimination is the behavioral part of prejudice if we are taking. So once like in the initial stage, the prejudice will form in a person's mind towards a particular group or a person. And the formation of prejudice will take some time. Okay, it's a process. And once it is done, then it's a whole or the whole prejudiced attitude towards a particular group of or a person is once formed, then it won't stay it like that. Then it will ask or it will push that person, that prejudice will push that person to exercise that whenever it is needed. That is the discrimination happens. So it is very important to remove prejudice first if we want to remove discrimination in the society. That is why we are giving awareness of classes and all those things to remove the prejudice. So these two things are extremely complex when we study these things. When we use research to study these things, very complex and very influenced by a range of factors. So we'll discuss some of the factors that cause prejudice and discrimination. The first one is socialization that we have already discussed in the previous class. So you know what is socialization process. So prejudice and discrimination is basically primarily established through socialization. That's the first process. The socialization process starts from family, basically. So family is a big part to remove prejudice and discrimination. And the second type is stereotyping. So stereotyping is basically it's a kind of reinforced negative images. So the stereotype have a problem. So stereotype is basically a cognitive component, which is it is having a negative prototype. That is what we call stereotype. A prototype that gives need negative meaning or unhealthy meaning. That is stereotype. So we will be collecting more stereotypical knowledge or information based on a particular group, which will reinforce or enhance the prejudice and discrimination towards a particular person or group. That is what stereotyping do. Another one is intergroup conflict. Intergroup conflict happens with that the sharing of resource, power, or social statuses. That is the one reason which prejudice and discrimination happen. So when within the intergroup conflict, little difficult. It's little different because intergroup means a conflict or a conflict arised within a group because of prejudice and discrimination. So we are taking a community organization or something. So some people will always keep certain uh, designations or power places because they have a kind of extra power, basically. So this will make a kind of power imbalance within the community because some people holding, even though they are in a range of community and everything, some people have some excessive power that can be exerted to another one. So then there will be intergroup conflict that we can see in all political parties that is happening in India. That is there one thing. And then another one is psychological factors. So prejudice and discrimination can be related to psychological factors, basically, like all kind of fear, anxiety, low self-esteem. Those things can also happen. So basically, see, prejudice doesn't mean always aggressive or violent judgment. Okay, don't take it in that way also. Prejudice means negative attitude. Doesn't mean violent attitude or something like that, or aggressive attitude. It's a negative attitude. They don't want to, or a particular person which hold a negative attitude or a prejudiced concept to a particular person or a group. They won't kill them or they won't harm them, but what they do is obviously there is a harm, but it is not always physical harm. It can be a social harm that stopping them from representing from the social activities, kind of things that we can see that happening here also. So another kind of factor that influence prejudice and discrimination is institutional factors. So it's like policies, basically, and practice, like the government itself, actually. Basically, we can take the government itself. So how they treat their own people and how they are. Again, there is this power and how they are they are utilizing their power and how they are sharing the resources among the community. So that is the one major reason how institutionalized factors lead to a polarized and discriminatory processes. So these are the some of the major um, some of the major factors that can be cause for a formation of polarized and discrimination in a person. So till now everything is clear. So anyone have anything to be explained or anything? So shall I continue? The next we have to look into methods of reduce harm. Anyone wants to say anything? Something? Now we are discussing what are the methods that we can use to reduce prejudice. So discrimination again, it's not in hands of psychologists, at least to some extent, but prejudice is because it's a cognitive and emotional aspects that we have upper hand psychologically. So if we are able to remove or we are able to uh, change the polarized attitude or belief or whatever they have through certain methods, then we can definitely change, we can definitely stop the discrimination that is happens based on those kind of polarizers. So some of the interesting, effective methods that we use to reduce prejudice, one is education, basically. That education that we get in schools and universities and everywhere. But we are learning rational, logical, scientific temper connected with values and moral values and everything. It's not social moral values, it's moral values of human beings and everything. That's what we learn in schools and universities and colleges. That must help people to fight against any kind of realized attitudes or discriminatory activity in their life. That is very important. Another one is contact. Contact here means contact with members of different groups can help reduce prejudice by promoting positive interaction and reducing fear and anxiety. So that's what we call that we have to uh, we have to be exposed to people basically. So when we are socialized with multiple people from multiple backgrounds, like which is multiple ethnicity, religion, nationality, whatever, if we if we are getting a chance or possibility of having a kind of good uh, interaction with them, then we will understand that it's not about the community, it's about the person, or it's not about the race, it's not about the ethnicity, or it's not about the nationality. It's about the person. So it's about the people. Not everyone is bad or everyone from a particular community is bad. No, we can't say it like the person can be. So contact is one way that we can help people to reduce. So contact means increase networking, increase one's network into other areas of society, so that we will be having a kind of exposure to multiple strata of society. We will get a clear picture about that everyone is humans, that some people are having issues, some people are good. And another important factor that we method of use to reduce realize is empathy that we have discussed in the previous class. What is empathy and difference between empathy and sympathy? Empathy here involving and like basically understanding and sharing the feelings of others. Basically, not about understanding only. So we have to make sure that we understood what you went through, and we will make them sure that we understood through our response to them. Basically, that's it. Coach. That's the empathy, one way. And then another one is intergroup cooperation. So to avoid intergroup conflict, we use intergroup cooperation. So cooperation between different groups can help reduce prejudice by promoting a sense of common identity and shared goals. So this is the major uh, two uh, two factors that we use to eliminate intergroup conflict. That is sense of common identity and shared goals. This is the two anchor point that we can keep all the fights in intergroup conflict away. sense of common identity. So we will provide a sense of common identity, an identity for everyone in a particular group. So they won't question their own identity or anyone else's identity because they are also belong to that identity. That's the one way. And another one is shared goal. Everyone will have a single goal. So everyone will share a single goal. So they have to work for that because it's everyone's goal. So these two methods, sense of common identity and shared goal, is a highly effective methods that we use to reduce intergroup conflict. It comes in intergroup cooperation. Then media representation, that is one major reason that we have a hell lot of prejudice uh, about many other people or country or whatever it is, because the way they represent or way they present news and stories and things to people. So media comes everything. It includes movies, it includes TV shows, news stories, everything. So it's very important that we have to, like, these people who work in media or whatever, that kind of, they have to be very respectful, and when they are showing any kind of social cultural aspects or diversity, basically. So um, we know that how things are very misinterpretatively representing in medias in multiple ways. That is one group, one problem. Like, so media representation, if the media representation can be accurate, precise, with scientific explanation, not any kind of hush hush kind of things, then yeah, through media representation we can reduce crime. And another one is intergroup relation policies. So that is basically comes with a bigger system. So it will come with uh, laws and acts and kind of things. It basically comes with the government. And so, for example, this intergroup relation policies. For example, we can take like anti-discrimination laws, so affirmative action policies, or diversity initiatives in the workplace and education system. So these are some of the intergroup relation policies to reduce uh, race and discrimination. One of some of them. So we have covered the basic aspects of basic important aspects of prejudice and discrimination. Now we are moving to definition and nature of aggression. Basically, all the details of aggression, aggression, forms of aggression, and permanence of aggression. So that's the next. That's the final part that we have to discuss today. So, is there any question or anything that you have related to prejudice and discrimination? Otherwise, we can go to the next topic.
Excuse me, sir.
So, yes, yes.
Sir, sir, can we consider the factors which we can reduce the prejudice to the same factors for the discrimination?
Yes, yes. Because here discrimination only happens if there is a prejudice.
Yes, sir.
Okay, discrimination alone won't stand. If a prejudice exists in a person, then only that person can exercise discrimination. So if we can, discrimination is the observable behavior that we can get. If a person, some person are able to not to express their discriminatory behavior, but still can hold prejudiced attitude.
Hmm. Okay,
That
sir.
is also there. So discrimination is the observable or the evidence from a human that they are holding a prejudice. So this, determination is basically comes with action. No? So whatever the method that we use to remove discrimination will also automatically by default apply to prejudice. Yeah,
Oh,
you're right. You can use. Yes.
thank you, sir.
There is no more questions, so we can move to next section, aggression. So again, aggression, it's a very important topic in the whole psychology, the concept of whole psychology, not in only social psychology. So uh, we have to differentiate two things before we enter into aggression. That is violence and aggression. These are two different things, basically. Violence is natural. There is violence in nature. It's not only violence is not the quality of human beings. It's the quality of nature. It exists in humans also, like every other living organism. But aggression is basically human based, basically. Uh, uh, because violence is basically for survival, comes with violence. And mostly violence happens when in times of survival. But aggression is actually intentional behavior to harm or injure another person or animal or whatever. Okay. So it can be physical, such as hitting or punching, and it can be verbal, such as insulting or threatening language. So this is not violence. Violence is something different. Violence is a bigger concept. It's not a psychological concept, a cultural concept, basically. It's a bigger concept. But aggression comes with people. So basically, aggression is not bad, basically. Aggression is needed when it is very much necessary. Because before aggression, we mostly use assertiveness. So when assertiveness is not working, then we move to aggression. And there is a healthy way to show aggression also. Aggression is not bad. It's also not good. It's up to how a person is using. But again, in this context of this particular context, aggression refers to behavior that is intent to harm or injure another person or animal or any living organism. It can be physical, such as hitting or punching, or verbal, such as insulting or abusive language or threatening language. So aggression, it can also be direct when the harm is inflicted directly on the target, or it can be indirect where the harm is inflicted on another target or object. So that's the difference basically. Aggression is very calculated, goal-oriented process. It have a specific goal. Aggression have a specific goal, and it's have a specific mode of operandi, and it have a well-planned design. Obviously, aggression will have. So the nature of aggression, it's very complex basically because it comes with a lot of biological, psychological, social factors. It's not a aggression is not simply a biological or psychological expression. It's a social expression also. So it's not anger. Okay, anger and aggression is two different thing again. Okay, don't connect that also. Anger is an emotion that all human beings have, and it's part of humans' survival. Anger is a healthy emotion. Anger is very much needed. It's inevitable, but aggression is not. So that is why we are dealing aggression in the context of social psychology. So, so we have to understand aggression. We have to dissect aggression into two parts, which is biological, psychological, and social aspects of aggression. So, biological aspects, if we take the biological spectrum of aggression, it's linked with two hormones such as testosterone, like kind of hormones, or brain abnormalities, a kind of brain injuries or anything. Those kind of things can lead to aggressive behavior, or or it can be some kind of problem with emotional regulation, which directly caused by some kind of brain issue or biological causes. Because when a person gets aggressive, there will be a physiological changes in that person's body. You can observe yourself. If you can recollect any kind of moment that in our life that we were aggressive, we were full of aggression, we can. if we are able to recall those moments, we know that how our body was expressing that aggression. It was maybe some some people, it may be shaking, shivering. For some people, they won't be able to talk, only able to cry. Some people, their whole brain will be kind of exploding. Something else is happening. So some kind of weird experience is body giving when we are in aggression. And the psychological aspects of aggression basically start with we can go from the personality traits. If a person is having neuroticism in a higher level, so neuroticism is basically the instability of emotion in the personality concept. So if a person is having a higher level of neuroticism in their personality context, the person will be having a problem with emotional stability. So it can lead to a aggressive behavior. That is one reason that we say personality traits. Another major reason we say is hostility and anger. Yeah, but there is a problem here. Basically, uh, this aggression start with hostility, kind of a negative attitude, basically, but it's not existing. That's why always we realize that we were wrong towards them in an aggressive way. When we realize that we feel a hell lot of guilty, the people feel a hell lot of guilty. That's the problem with aggression. Aggression comes with uh, the people who are not skilled to control their own emotions will be having aggressive moment whenever they are angry. Be careful. That's the explanation. Not everyone who is anger will lead to aggressive behavior. Okay. So if an individual or if a person is in anger, that doesn't mean that person will be aggressive. aggressive. Sorry. But for all aggression, there will be an anger component. That is for sure. So what is this difference between anger and aggression is the aggression, anger, it's a real emotion that it comes whenever a person will get a fact or a kind of a threat, a kind of a thing. But aggression exists without any kind of real life threatening, but only because of the existing pressurized concept. Madhi, Praveen Kumar's mic is on. Yeah. So aggression is basically there will be anger. We may have anger towards our parents or partner or friends. That is anger because of they did something, they said something. We have that anger. That is one kind of anger. But aggression actually, my power went off here. So when power went, like everything left, or internet and everything. Sorry. So we were discussing discussion and like aggression and anger. So aggression can be uh, identified and can be changed. So we have to explain how, like, what are the psychological aspects of aggression again. So people who are having uh, vulnerable mental health conditions such as depression or anxiety or any kind of like such mental health condition, they can be aggressive. It's not because of their aggressive, because of their psychological state. Okay. And the socially, if you the social realm of aggression is basically influenced by cultural norms or socialization experiences, exposure to violence, and basically we get the any kind of information through media about a particular group. So we can check whether we have a kind of aggression towards anything or anyone. So that is the difference between anger and aggression. Anger is a momentary emotion. Okay. Anger may stay anger may stay inside one person, but that won't have an intention to harm anyone. But if anyone is having aggression towards anyone or any group, definitely they will be having an intention to harm them. So that's the difference between anger and aggression. Oh, am I not audible?
Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
Audible,
Yeah,
sir.
Audible,
yeah,
sir.
sure. Okay. So, socialization. So, if we have to deal with aggression of any individual, we have to look into these three aspects. Is there any biological aspects for their aggression, or is there any psychological aspects, or is there any social aspects? So, there maybe for some people there will be all the three aspects for aggressive expression, or for some people there will be only biological aspects. So then, if it is biological aspects, we can do something because like it's physical. We can do some kind of treatment or something to reduce the anger. If it is psychological or something, then we can do counseling or therapy, those kind of psychological intervention to reduce aggression. If it is socially, then it is too difficult. Because yes, we can use any kind of psychosocial intervention to reduce those kind of aggression in people. So, what are the possible consequences that that aggression can lead to? Uh, Anyone have any comment on that? What are the possible negative consequences that can be lead to the people because of aggression?
Physical harm can be
Phys-
possible.
Yeah,
So
physical harm.
many things will happen.
Frustration,
Sorry,
provocation,
sorry.
frustration
Physical
leads
harm
to
can
the aggression, sir.
Yeah, that can be. But yeah, but we have to think in a way of psychologist. We are in a social
the
psychology class.
mental harm is the main thing over here
Exactly. Yeah, mental harm. Think
because you are
as a
harming
psychologist.
him or her mentally in that
Yeah,
aspect.
exactly. So that can be one big consequences for aggression, mental harm, mental health harm. So what are the other consequences?
breaking the relationship.
Yeah, exactly. It can break the relationship.
Socially
It will
relationships will be
social relationship.
bad.
Yeah, it can be. What else? Don't come up with the layman example. Think as a psychologist and come up with the consequences that can lead by aggression. So basically, we will start with the basic concept of consequences of aggression. That is, there will be two people emerge. There will be an aggressor and a victim. So this is the basic concept. Okay, so the basic consequences that happens when aggression happens is there will be an aggressor and there will be a victim. So that is the first thing as a psychologist we should think. Okay, when there is a situation and there is aggression happen. So aggression means the person, one person intending to harm or injure another person. So that social context is existing with two kind of people. One is aggressor and another is victim. So again, we are taking aggressor victim not to show any kind of different kind of attitude, to understand the aggressive process happened between these two people. So we are not like labeling them as aggressor or victim. To learn how it is happened. For that purpose, we are categorizing. one person as a victim, another person as aggressor. For some, in that process, in that analysis process, we may have to change that shift. Sometimes the victim become aggressor, or the aggressor become victim. So that's the process psychologists do. Like we have to do. That is the process that we do. We should do. That's only the way that we can identify what is the dynamics happened before that aggressive behavior happened. So that aggressor victim, that is will be the first thing, and other things that you have said, everything like physical injury can happen, social exclusion, social discrimination, physical relationship issues, and all kind of those things. Everything can happen, and also it can lead to legal consequences. So we have to start with the basic consequences, the primary or the basic grassroots level consequences of aggression, to the broader global level of aggression. So in the global level of aggression, we can reach into political war or Cold War, those kind of things. That's a kind of a bigger picture of aggression, and kind of a relationship issue, or intrapersonal conflict, not interpersonal. Intrapersonal conflict, we can say, that will be the first consequences of aggression. So we always need a proper evolutionary history of all psychological process. That is how we understand. That is the way we should understand. There should be evolutionary structure for all kind of psychological behavior. For aggression is not something that spontaneously happen. It accumulate, and then it will start performing. It will start exercising. Then it will go. So aggression, all kinds of psychological process is like that. It will accumulate at some point, and then will start activating. It will start processing. Then there will be an end. It's like that. So all psychological concepts we should understand like that. Everything, attitude, prejudice, discrimination, like that. Aggression also. So for aggression, we'll take the basic functions. So it will start from the individual, like mental health issues. It can, like someone said, mental health issues. Yeah, it's the primary consequences. We'll start with mental health issues, physical issues, social issues, relationship issue, and that can escalate to the that kind of like we can see that, like the morning aggressive transaction or exchange between husband and wife can lead to bad performance in the office or in their job or their whole day, right? So the small aggressive activity which has happened in between two people can have the consequences on a lot of things. So that is the problem with aggression. And anger doesn't have these kind of things. Okay, anger is anger is completely different. Oh, വീണ്ടും പോയി. Yeah, sorry, disconnected. I'm audible, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You are.
Yeah. So there are different forms of aggression that we have to look next. There are several different forms of aggression. These are the forms of the forms of aggression that I am discussing now is not the only forms of aggression. Okay, there are different kind of forms of aggression. These are some examples. So the first one, we can start with physical aggression, that we all know, that intend to cause harm or injury. Physical harm, basically physical harm, hitting, pinching, kicking, those kind of things, physical harm. The another one, we can start the second kind of aggression. We'll go with the verbal aggression. It's like yeah, insult, threat, yelling. I think someone raised a hand. Yeah. I don't know. Someone's mic is open. Yeah.
So does labeling, tagging a person with some names and
That
spreading
is
false
precise. That is
information about.
precise.
Okay.
That is
Commander.
precise. Labeling a person or labeling a group. We are just doing labeling, but we are not sure whether the label is right or
Okay, sir.
that's the reason. If we are aware that the kind of labeling, even still we are not allowed to label because there is a possibility of change for every human. So we are labeling, then that means we are permanently putting that person into that label. Then there is no chance of change. So better we don't label. That's one thing. So aggression, there's physical aggression, there is verbal aggression, and there is relational aggression. Okay. The another concept is relational aggression. So this is a form of aggression involves using social relationship to harm or control others. Okay. So for example, relational aggression, like it's kind of including spreading rumors or gossiping or excluding someone from social groups. So these are relational aggression. We call it relational aggression. So basically, the word relation comes with relationship. Basically, so wherever the term relation comes, that means it's a group of people. So relational aggression, basically, it's a kind of aggression, but we use uh, that that kind of aggression to exercise our prejudice or discriminatory or whatever behavior in a group settings. Then there is sexual aggression. Again, sexual aggression, sexual behavior, any kind of sexual behavior. Okay, it's not only the physical aspects; it can be verbal aspects, even it can be non-verbal aspects. So anything, sexual assault, rape, or sexual harassment, or sexually involved statements, those things are all sexual aggression. It all comes with sexual aggression. And then we have in the modern world, we have cyber aggression, we have cyber attacking, cyber bullying, and everything. So we all also have cyber aggression. So because of the cyber aggression, all the cyber bullying, online harassment, and all those things are happening basically. The cyber aggression is the reason behind that, and it works in a different way also. So that's why we have a separate different aggression for cyber aggression. It won't it is not working like relational aggression. It's a different category. And then we have a most important aggression that we all use in our life, which is passive aggression. Though this is very interesting actually. So this aggression we are still studying. Passive aggression is one of the major area which is still psychology people are working on research. This passive aggression is very interesting phenomena within humans. So what is passive aggression means? It's like it involves expressing aggression in indirect or subtle way. Okay. So for example of like for example, like we are having a sarcasm or a silent treatment or withholding information. So this is a kind of like sarcasm. Yeah, passive aggression, is it good? So that's actually the current research is happening whether aggression is it totally bad. So the still research is going. So still right now the conclusion is passive aggression also it's bad. Okay, so why it is bad? Because the intention is to hurt. That is the problem. Passive anger is fine, passive aggression is not, because aggression, the primary intention of aggression is always hurt and injury, and we won't be able to change any kind of behavior or thought or emotion of another person by harming them or injuring them. It's not the process. So aggression, whether it is passive or active or whatever it is, it's bad, it's unhealthy. So certain sarcasms are good, but certain sarcasms are not good. So you are making sarcasms about a mental health condition, no, it's not good. We can see those kind of things in movies and everywhere. That is a kind of passive aggression. So people use, like for example, if you're having a heated conversation between two friends or partners, for example, and they are having a heated conversation and someone said something which is very much hurting, and suddenly the other partner stopped talking. Silence for 1 day, silence for 2 days, silence for 3 days. Okay, so that's passive aggression. We call it silent treatment. It's passive aggression. So sometimes passive aggression can harm very much problem than anger. basically, because anger is communicated and aggression is not communicated. So passive aggression is the most dangerous aggression among all other aggression because it can lead to other aggressions. So these are the some of the different forms of aggression that we like this social psychologist or psychologist identified. There are many more. He can read more. We will be adding more content. And the last area that we are discussing is determinants of aggression. So that we have already discussed actually some of the factors, which is biological factors like the hormones and those kind of things. And then the psychological factors, which comes with frustration. So the important thing is, see, anger is a emotion. It's a basic biological emotion which we got through our evolutionary process, but aggression is not. So aggression can't be never be healthy. That's the thing. So uh, so whenever there is an aggression, so some kind of unhealthy or dysfunctional experience happened in that particular person's life. So if we look the core reason of aggression, then that will be failure or fear, something like that. Is basically always the core reason of aggression will be any kind of frustration or defeat or failure. So we can see this frustration hypothesis, like frustration, anger, frustration hypothesis. Something there is a hypothesis like that. So which is saying that like people first they will have a kind of a failure or a kind of some kind of unhealthy consequences, some kind of unhealthy uh, incident will happen in someone's life, and that will give some kind of unhealthy emotions or anything. So if a person is denying that particular
Excuse me, sir.
experience,
Excuse me,
yeah,
sir. One doubt, sir.
yeah,
As you said, anger is of evolutionary origin, no doubt. But
sorry,
just like that anger, even aggression is also evolutionary reasons are
yeah,
there. It's not
obviously
a-
aggression is evolutionary. That is why
yeah,
we
because
all
protecting
humans have,
instinct.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, it's a
when he's
natural
living as a
instinct.
caveman, protecting against the animals, all those things.
That is we call violence actually. That is violence basically.
No. The consequence is violence, but aggression is to protect him.
Yeah, exactly. That is that violence, that consequences of violence which should come from anger, because aggression is basically we have to injure. So when aggression happens, if you go through the
Yeah.
intra-psychic process of aggression, we can see that it's always a
Okay.
pleasure basically.
Yeah. What I
That
mean to say is,
uh,
anger is
yeah,
an emotion which is also necessary to protect the person from the
uh,
attack. And
yeah.
anger expresses itself in the form of aggression.
Aggression, yeah, but anger can be expressed without aggression also. That is why we are
That's
saying,
true. Can be
yeah, exactly,
can be
yeah,
expressed without
exactly,
aggression. That is in the
exactly,
modern society is happening. What I'm saying, my
exactly,
point is only this. Just like
exactly.
anger, even the
Aggression is
aggression is
also part
also
of, yeah,
biology instincts is there, evolutionary biology.
exactly. That is there. That is there.
Innocence. Yeah,
You're
that's
right.
what I want to say. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Like all kind of psychological process is came to humans through evolutionary process. Some some
Yeah,
time of our timeline, some part of our timeline in the evolution of human beings, somewhere we don't know. But
exactly.
so that's why aggression is existing in all human beings right now. So
Yeah, as I see it,
yeah,
anger is an emotion. And
yeah, exactly,
aggression is a form of expressing the emotion in one form of expressing emotion.
exactly, sir. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
right. You're right.
Yeah,
So the
thank you.
problem here is anger is very important. It's a healthy emotion, but uh, we always we always propose to people to practice assertiveness with adjacent to anger,
Exactly.
because uh, anger is an emotion and aggression is that expression of that kind of that impulsivity. So what happens is in a communication, when there is a communication happens and there is a anger, the emotion of anger is happening within a person,
Yeah,
and that person suddenly become aggressive, everyone will focus on their aggressive aspects and no one
exactly.
will focus on what they are saying or what they are trying
Exactly
to say.
correct. Exactly correct.
But if a person is having anger, instead of showing aggression,